Well, I'm starting to see a little bit of talk about the palladium market, but you're never going to see that much talk about the palladium market unless it has this ridiculous stellar run upward, and then they're going to talk about it after the fact. After the fact. So you're going to have to be like old girl here, thinking outside the box, being a lot different from the crowd, and breaking the chains and breaking the bars to get through to the real reality. In other words, with palladium, it's never going to be something where everybody's going to buy it. There just isn't enough of it around. It's same like with silver, but it's far, far, far more acute. That rationale is with palladium. And like for instance, let me just get onto some facts here. Like right now in 2012, supposedly the annual supply of palladium might have been closer to 9 million ounces, but even in 2011 they had 8.5 million ounces. That's including supply. That's including recycled. Okay, that's including recycled. All the mines, global, not United States, Russia, the whole thing, everybody, right? So right now, say it's 720 spot price, might be a little lower than that, but it's roughly it. So you got about $6 billion total, like that goes into palladium every year. So that's industrial, but industrial is when you're looking what's available for investment. It's definitely not even 5% of that, of the total. So you're talking about $300 million is available to go into investment palladium every year. That's, assuming just going on what the production is for the year. So, I mean, if there's a lot of people that sold off, maybe there'd be more money that can go into it. But that's roughly about all there is. That's all there is. So, in other words, in the United States, if everybody spent an average of $1 just in the United States, or just globally, 300 million people spent $1 on palladium, that's it. That's all for investment. That's all there is for investment. If you had 8.5 million people in the United States, a small fraction of the 300 million population out there, which I don't know how many people could consider to be investors, maybe 50 million. But if you had 8.5 million people just in the United States, not talking globally now, I'm talking just the global supply, that would buy up the whole global supply, including all the industrial. There'd be nothing left for industry. They couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. I mean, really what's available is like practically nothing. I mean, you're talking 500,000 ounces or something. It's ridiculous. So, 500,000 people in the United States bought it up. That's it. That's all the investment available. So this is why it's not going to be talked about, because at this price, it's not worth mentioning it. And that's why, if you're smart, you ought to get into it. You ought to get into it. Now, looking at the charts, long range, like I bought it way back down here on the physical, like around under 200 spot price, around 200 spot price, would be just a hair over 200 spot price. And, it climbed to like 860, 870. It actually went up from like 160 way down here to the high of over 5 times, 860, 870 at the very peak. So we had a double peak here, and it's been sitting flat for a while. But, it's actually been sitting a lot better than silver in retrospect, and everybody was, hammering me for about this garbage for, forever. But you're not going to. I heard David Morgan, one of his people, talking about it just recently, and he was talking about like, the cars and things like that are out there. So basically, when you're buying palladium, you're thinking outside the box. You're almost like you're a Maverick. You're not. You're totally independent. You're not going to be thinking like the herd in this case. I'll guarantee you that, because the herd is too big. Even a small minority of the herd is way too big to get into the market of palladium. So you're not going to see a lot of people pushing it, unless, say, we had over the next several years to go way up. Oh, then they'll push it after the fact. After the fact, and maybe it'll go up even higher. But that's when it starts getting dangerous. I think palladium is almost a surefire bet it's going to be worth more than gold at one point in time. And gold is going up too. So, platinum right now, it caught up to, if you're looking at the things here, it's pretty much the same price as gold. Gold's a little higher now. Platinum, they're roughly 1 to 1. I mean, palladium and platinum had a little bit of pullback today. Silver's looking strong today. But, long range, palladium actually is going to be the big winner. Platinum, yeah, I know, like, I bought some platinum. Actually, I should have bought it lower, but I'm up on it now, finally. But who the hell knows? I'm waiting, though. I'm waiting. I'm not playing day trader or nothing like that. I'm waiting. And, if platinum gets up, if gold gets up to 2,000 and platinum is a little more than gold, I'll probably dump it then. Not the physical, just the ETFs, and just hang on for cash because the world is not going to fall apart right away like a lot of these guys are saying. The dollar, it's not going to fall apart completely, and the one place you don't want to be is probably in the equities because like what Mark Farber said yesterday, he expects a 100% chance of recession in 2013, which ergo you can rationale from there that what's going to happen from there is that there's going to be a lot more QE. The stuff that Ben Bernanke says about ending QE, that ain't going to happen. Now, this is mainly about palladium. But palladium is going to be something you're not going to hear a lot about. I heard a little bit about it on David Morgan's investment channel, whatever it was. Somebody was talking about it, somebody that works for him. And, he's talking about, all the car production's going up. I mentioned this stuff in other videos. If you look at it, I have a playlist out there about palladium. It's got some videos in it if you want to take a look at some of that stuff because I'm not going to rehash it too many times over and over and over again. But you're not going to hear a lot of people coming out of the woodwork talking about palladium. The whole global production is under 9 million ounces. It's not enough. That's the whole global production, with 95% of it either going into jewelry or industrial. Most of it's industrial, but I think 7% of the total amount goes into jewelry sometimes, if it's doing good that year. And you got way less than 5% of that 8.5 million ounces, to say it's 9 million ounces, going into investment world. So you got way less than 500,000 ounces to invest in. Crazy, isn't it? Crazy. You think it should be a hell of a lot more money than that, and that's what's going to happen. But you're not going to hear nobody talking about it, and the big guys can't move into it. They can't. They got too much money to move into it. They might buy a tiny amount of it, but they won't bother because they got too much money. They got too much money. It's the same reason they don't go into silver, but you could say the same thing about palladium, only 10 times more. 10 times more. It's far, far more rare than gold. And nobody's thinking about it, and nobody's telling you about it. So you're going to be like a total maverick if you get into this stuff. And, it's had a nice climb so far, but that ain't the end of it. You're going to be like a total maverick. And a lot of people are going to tell you you're high for going into palladium and laugh at you and say, ha, 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 what are you doing that for? But I do recommend you go into silver first. But the real poor man's gold is going to be palladium. I mean, would you buy gold that's, $700 an ounce right now? Basically, that's what you're doing with palladium. It's not exactly the same. It's not going to be like monetary value. But you know what? You're going to be able to get whatever the hell money is out there for it. It's not going to be like something the central banks hoard. They can't. It's not enough of it. The Russians hoard it because they had it for so long, since the 30s. Since the gulags running that palladium mine up in North Russia since the 30s. All that was free labor. And they accumulated over a lot of decades, and they dump it on the market every once in a while. It didn't cost much because they got it off of slave labor. Deaths of millions. What do you think? I mean, millions. I don't know what happened. I don't know how many people died, but that's really why it's cheap. That's really why it's cheap. It shouldn't be that cheap. And back in 2001, it went up to like about 5 times the price of gold one time at the max, when there was a panic because they thought Russia was going to cut out, it was running out, right? So what's going to happen in the future? What's going to happen. You're going to be like a lone wolf to actually do this stuff. And it's like a market nobody's going to tell you about. I'm telling you about it just for fun. I'm not making money off of this, you know what I mean? Yeah, monetize the account, whatever, but that don't really mean much. On this video, I probably wouldn't make nothing. And I really, so I'm just telling it to you for fun, Now, yesterday I went into a little bit about John Kellogg and his yogurt machine, but pretty rough on the Christians and stuff. But I'm going to tell you right now, Christians sometimes they got great, I don't know what the hell. John Kellogg was a jerk, I could tell you that right now, But a lot of times they got good intentions with the Christians and stuff. The Christians have a lot of good intentions, but they get scammed. I'm going to repeat this story because it's well worth repeating. I like repeating it a lot. They had the abolitionist movement, right? Abolitionists, get rid of the liquor. Lips that touch liquor shall not touch ours. Well, you know what? the John D. Rockefeller gave $4 million to these women to just stop that, not because he's Christian. He played like he was Christian. What he did was he was getting rid of it because it was competition. The farmers were producing alcohol, which was competition for his crude oil product, which was gasoline. The farmers' alcohol ran in the cars at the time. You know, he didn't like that. So he wanted to get rid of the competition. So the women helped him, the Christian women. I don't know. They're stupid. That's all I got to say. So, you know, you got to think outside the box and don't believe every damn thing being told you, because the next thing that's going to be coming out probably is going to be more hype about silver going to the moon, because I remember there's some predictions out there what Max Kaiser was talking about in April. I heard that stuff too. I saw the Cliff High predictions about they're going to bring the price up, they're going to have people sell it, and they're going to harvest it from the public, and then it's going to crash and it's going to go way up again. And I don't know. I don't think any of these guys. Max Kaiser knows better. He's smarter. Cliff High, I don't think he knows what's going on. Good Cliff is High is about correct, but if you get a quick double on something, you should always sell something. I do think silver and gold, when they fight over this debt ceiling, are going to go way up. But it may get ahead of itself again. But you're going to see them come out of the woodwork like it's going to the moon. Me, I'll probably, I don't know, depends on where it goes to. But if there's like some crazy gains in silver, I'll definitely be dumping the ETFs. Goodbye, I'll take fiat money. And I might even dump some of the physical waiting for a pullback. Depends on how fast it moves up. But that's when these guys come on hot and heavy. But they're never going to tell you about palladium too much, because they can't really make money off it, to tell you the truth. Not that much. I mean, Eric Sprott has a fund on it, you know, big deal. But, you know, how many people can buy palladium? Like I just pointed out the numbers, right? Not many. Not many at all. You got a few $100 million that can move into all the investment palladium available for the whole year. A few $100 million? That's nothing. I mean, compared to the whole world, that's nothing. You're just not doing it. And nobody's going to bother to tell you about it because it isn't worth it for them. So you're going to have to think like an Maverick and outside the box to stick with this. And that's what I'm doing. So, to hell with it, you know. I'll tell you people, because actually it'll help me in a way, you know. But, hey, because more people buy, the more price it goes up. But eventually it is going to spike like crazy. And that's going to be the guessing point. You know, for all I know, it can go to 5 times the price of gold again. For all I know. I mean, gold could be $5,000 an ounce, and palladium could hit $25,000 at some crazy point in time, briefly. I don't really know. It really could. Sounds nuts, but you know, looking back at rubidium, what happened, right? Went to $10,200 an ounce from a couple $100, right? Palladium could do the same thing. I mean, I might sell it too early, but that's one reason I always say sell in steps. So, you know, you're never going to know the exact peak for anything. If you did that, you'd be owning the earth. You'd be bigger than the Rothschilds. But for now, this is a very smart move, and basically, you're not going to hear too much about it because there's nothing for them to sell. There's nothing for them to sell. It's like not even worth it for them. I mean, how are they going to make money if not enough people can move into palladium? They'll tell you about it when it goes up really high. Maybe they'll shrewdly move into it now, but it's such a small market. Not too many people can even shrewdly move into it right now. You know, it's tiny compared to silver. So, not a lot of people are going to be doing it, but a few people are, and they're going to make out like crazy. And maybe later on, you're going to hear a lot of garbage about palladium. Oh, it used to be, you know, 160. And it was up to 800, 700. Now it's thousands of dollars an ounce, and it's expected to go to 20,000, and maybe it will. I don't know. Actually, I might hold a little bit of it, even if it went to more than gold. I don't know how much I would sell, because really, you know, I see some expectations out there, some games with Russia. It's probably going to super spike. It's done it before. So those into the metals are playing the right game. But there ain't too many people that can move into palladium. So, I'm telling you about it. You know, people say, you know, well, do whatever you want. I know what I'm doing, but you're going to have to think like a maverick and not listen to other people and be patient. It'll play out. That's what I'm thinking.